Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce our guest of the week, Kerry Washington. Welcome to Haley on the Go.
Thanks for having me, Haley.
I am so excited to have you here. I feel like Olivia Pope is one of the only people who could fix this mess we're in right now as a country.
I know. I always like to remind people, though, that Olivia Pope's not real. And so in real life, we each have so much more power than Olivia Pope because she can't really vote and she can't really volunteer and she can't march and she can't donate to the campaigns and the causes that she cares deeply about because she's just not real. So it's important to remember that, that we can each be the Olivia Popes of our families or our communities or, you know.
I think that the show and Olivia Pope and Scandal really did serve, though, to help give people visual examples of the types of involvement that you can take or the importance of civic engagement. I want to start us off
Yeah.
by talking about Scandal because how can we not?
Okay.
When you first signed with the show, did you have any idea what a sensation it would be, not just culturally, but politically? You took on some really, really important big topics.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had no idea that the show would be a huge hit. You just never know in in the acting Hollywood world. You never know like what's going to land with people, what isn't. It's always a creative risk to jump into a new project, a new character. So I definitely didn't know. But in terms of the politics of it, when I first read it, I felt like this was an exciting world to drop into. I'd been, myself, I'd spent a lot of time in Washington because I went to school in
Yeah.
DC. I went to GW. And then also because as an activist, I had marched up and down the halls of Congress trying to ask for increased funding for the arts when I was in college and even afterward. I mean, the first place that I ever met Tony Goldwyn actually was not on an acting job. We used to work with this organization called the Creative Coalition, and the
Hmm.
Creative Coalition defends arts funding and funding for the humanities on the Hill. And so Tony and I used to actually talk to members of Congress about arts funding. And
I
he was
love
the
that.
co-president of the organization at the time. So I've only known Tony as a president. Um, but that, I guess I figured that if the show was going to be set in DC, that we would be dealing with some pretty political issues. And even in that pilot, we were dealing with that soldier who was navigating being gay and not sure how to deal with that publicly. So I loved that even in the very first episode in the pilot that the show was not shying away from complicated issues because when we aired, you know, there was no Marriage Equality Act. Like there was a lot of um, fear still and stigma, and there still is around the LGBTQ community.
Airing those conversations on television has such immense power, though. I went to college right down the street from you at American, and I also got
Oh,
my
okay.
start sort of in the arts and advocacy, so I love hearing that. But went
Oh,
to school down the street at AU, and I actually took a class on Shondaland, and we would watch Wine Thursdays and then talk
oh
about
my gosh.
it.
How
It
fun.
was so fun. And we would analyze the episodes about what a powerful tool it was for political communication and for being a vehicle for change.
Right.
And just how showing people these conversations in real life allows them to destigmatize it, or not in real life,
Yeah.
on television, allows them to experience it in a way where it's not as heightened emotionally as if it's in their real life. And the
Yes.
power of that, which I learned so much from the class, it was truly incredible. But now, when I think about the time that we're in, I see the way
Mm.
that media is being criticized when used in this way. I know that you wear so many different hats as an actress, an activist, as an executive producer. How are you thinking about the impact of media under this administration and the way that it's being criticized and how it changes the landscape to be able to have these kind of conversations?
Oh, it's such a complicated question. I mean, I often am like confused when people want to talk to me about how political the work I do is because I don't feel like I'm drawn to particular storylines or content because they're political, but I'm drawn to telling stories about real human beings who are
Mm.
trying to navigate the real issues that they're confronted with in life. And that's I guess that can be political if we want to pretend that people aren't human beings and don't have real struggles and complicated, dynamics that they're navigating. So, we don't shy away from complexity, I think is what I would say. At my company, Simpson Street, we love to live at the intersection of kind of what makes us all the same as human beings, that we all want to be loved, that we all want to be courageous, that we all have dreams, that we want to feel safe, that we want to belong. Like we love to stand at the intersection of those things, the things that make us all the same, and then the things that make us really different, because that's also what's interesting about storytelling, either seeing yourself with great specificity and feeling like, oh my gosh, I really relate, or being allowed a window into somebody else's reality and feel like, oh my gosh, for the first time I'm understanding a world that I've never been able to be a part of. So I guess that can be political when you're just inviting people to have a more compassionate understanding, when you're holding up a mirror to people on who they are, and then also allowing people to explore identities other than the ones they're born into. But that's art, right? Like that's art, and that's just meaningful storytelling. I think it's interesting the criticism that can come toward artists, because artists do often hold up a lens to society and let us know who we are. I think a lot of times when we are watching really great storytelling, we get confronted with either who we are or who we want to be or who we don't want to be. And so I think that's often why a lot of times people who are trying to silence dissent or silence compassion or silence struggles for equality and equity and humanity will try to silence artists. Because we are afraid. I think sometimes the powers that be are afraid of the power of stepping into somebody else's shoes, and afraid of the power of giving voice to marginalized communities and to issues and dynamics that we want to push into a corner.
Yeah, I love the way you said that we're afraid of giving power to other people. I think that's so strong and powerful. And I always say to people that you might not do politics, but politics does you, because it's just so innately human. That just being human and existing today in 2025 is so political by just inherently who you are. And so telling those stories of who people are is going to stir up some emotion and energy in people. When I think about Scandal, one of the episodes that was so groundbreaking and so important when it comes to storytelling was the episode where Olivia Pope had her abortion. You played the first actress to have an abortion procedure on network television, which is so powerful. When you learned that you were going to be doing that, what was going through your mind?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be the first. I didn't know it had never been done before. I was really moved when I read the script. I thought it was really powerfully done, and it felt important, because I think so often part of where we struggle when it comes to defending reproductive rights is that there's a stigma around talking about reproductive rights, and we act as if abortion is not health care. We push it into the shadows. We resist just dealing with the reality of care and of choice and of what it looks like and what it means. And so I thought it was really powerful, even though I begged Shonda to let Olivia Pope be pregnant, because when I was pregnant, I really wanted her to be pregnant so I wouldn't have to violate, I was getting bigger for no reason, according to viewers. But
Crazy.
I really respected Shonda's choice to have Olivia Pope be somebody who chose to not have children, that was important to her. And so I knew that it was a big deal, because it came down to the wire where, we weren't sure if the episode was going to air or if that part of the episode was going to air, because there was a lot of back and forth. I don't know the inside conversations, but there was a lot of back and forth between Shonda and the network and the studio and all the powers that be. And we were kind of like, I wonder what America's going to see tonight. Are they... It was really, because Shonda was not going to cut the scene out. She was like, there's no way I'm cutting that out. And so I think it was really powerful. I think it is really powerful when we bring when we bring stuff that society says is supposed to be a secret, when we bring it forward into the light and out of the shadows, I think it gives us permission to let each other be more human and more honest and in our collective truth in a more powerful way. I mean, it's part of why when I wrote my memoir a few years ago, I told my own abortion story, because I just thought there's so, my family, which is a whole other issue, but my family really struggled because of the secrets that we kept from each other. And those secrets were kept from each other because of the shame around our reproductive capacity, our reproductive health. My family didn't want to live in the truth of their challenges, the challenges that they had in having a child. And so they lied to me about who my biological father was. But that has to do with the shame and the quality of secrecy that we place around our reproductive lives, which is just so unnecessary. Like, we don't make each other feel shameful for going to the dentist.
No.
Why should we feel shameful about going to the gynecologist? And so that is important. I think it's important that in our stories we be brave, because that's how we know we're not alone. And there's so much power in community.
And there was so much power in you all letting people into that community if they didn't have someone that they could talk to. It sort of helped make it more human, make it feel more normalized. I mean, 1 in 4 women get an abortion. The odds are everyone knows someone or loves someone who's had this experience. We just don't talk about it enough. Something I thought was so beautiful and courageous and interesting with you when you told your personal story in your memoir was that you had said you kept it quiet for a while because you didn't want it to impact your career. And then you went on to ultimately play this role. But
yeah, it's funny. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's really, I think, kind of beautiful that you were then able to be the person maybe you needed to see on screen for other people. That's
a really beautiful way to put it, Haley.
Oh, well, that's how I felt.
Because I wonder if I had an Olivia Pope, if I had somebody, a hero of mine in the public space, in the public media space, make a choice like that, I probably would have felt a lot less shame about my decision early on.
Which shows why television like this is so important. I have to ask you, this episode was filmed in 2015, so now, or aired, so now in 2025, 10 years later, but in a very different political climate, do you think that episode would have been aired by networks?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's a great question. It is a great question. I think this is a moment where we have to be really strong when it comes to defending our free speech and not backing down and not preemptively censoring ourselves out of fear. I mean, I think the whole Jimmy Kimmel debacle was a real eye-opening moment for a lot of people. And I think the great thing about it is that between Colbert and Kimmel, it's become more of an invitation for people to understand what's at stake and to be part of a movement to protect free speech. I think about all of those journalists walking out of the Pentagon, how powerful it was. Again, there's so much power in community and unity, like people coming together. That letter that we all signed with the ACLU in support of Jimmy Kimmel, like those moments are really more important than ever.
And I think that the Jimmy Kimmel Colbert debacle gave people an opportunity to feel like they were part of a resistance that worked, because we were able to see the return on air, which it's hard in today's day to feel like the actions that we're taking have a purpose or that it's breaking through sometimes. And so it sort of serves as a purpose of, if we collectively use our voice, we can cause a reaction.
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting about the marches that Indivisible is planning and supporting, like being able to come out on No King's Day with my 86-year-old mom. And the first march a few months ago, I was there with my husband and my mother and my son, which was really awesome. And this past weekend they had all kinds of sports things, my kids, but I went with my mom, and it was really that feeling of being in community is so important right now, because there is so much curated, choreographed chaos being thrown our way, and it is very isolating and very intimidating. And so being in spaces with other people who are part of a resistance, with other people who feel the need to love each other and have more empathy and compassion and care for one another is just so important. Those marches are really, really important. I was so proud of everybody who came out. The fact that there were 0 arrests, right?
Yes.
In New York City, I was like, I used to get arrested marching when I was in high school. Like, where were these cops? Like, it was so great to see the nonviolent passion, and not, in the way that some people are describing it. Like, people weren't paid to be there. I wasn't paid to be there. My mother wasn't paid to be there. None of the people I saw with the creative, fantastic signs. And there were people of all different ages and races and religions and socioeconomic backgrounds. It was just there was music, and there was food, and there were signs, and there was art, and it just was spectacular. It was wonderful. And I think we have to continue to find ways to come together to support one another. I said to some friends of mine, if you're intimidated about marching, if you're nervous, then just get in your car, pick 2 or 3 marches that are happening around LA, and drive by and honk your horn. Because when you're out there marching and people honk in support, it does so much to raise everybody's spirits. Like, and also, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, make some signs and drop them off, because there's always people who don't have a sign of their own. Like, there are so many ways in this moment to be a part of communal actions for good. And I think it's really important to seek them out. I think, like, any of us alone at home on our phone, doom scrolling, not great. So figure out, like, what is it that I care about? How can I support this moment? I don't know if it's a soup kitchen. Right now there are so many federal workers who aren't getting paid.
Yep.
SNAP benefits being removed for the first time ever, like, by a president. It's wild. So there are so many ways to give back. Even this coming election day, right? Like, in California, I just want to say I've been very vocal. Tony and I created some content. We are vote yes on Prop 50. And if you've already voted and you're like, I did my part, no. Figure out who needs a ride to the poll. Like, you can offer somebody a ride. You can call 5 friends, text 5 friends, say, I voted yes on Prop 50. Please vote yes on Prop 50. Like, this is a way to stop the bleeding in the movement toward, just authoritarian control.
Yeah.
And so this is it. It's really, for me, I learned from some really important role models in my life that in very difficult times, one of the best ways to lift your spirits is to be in action and be in community. And, I learned that from Eve Ensler, who is just like one of the most astounding activist artists in the world. I learned that from Jane Fonda, from Pat Mitchell, these incredible women who have spent their lives creating positive change all over the world. And they have always said to me, it's okay to feel down. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be frustrated. But if you plug in and take action alongside other people, not only will you be doing better, but you will be feeling better.
Absolutely. I have a friend who described the No Kings marches last week as block parties. And she was like,
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, she's like, if you're afraid to get out there, stop thinking about it as a protest. It is a block party. It's a communal gathering. It is so fun. And I also find both joy and it's like medicine for me when I'm able to take action. And so I do want to talk about Prop 50 because you mentioned it and brought it up. This is a great way for people in California to take action right now. But I want to talk a little bit about what it is, since it was brought up. I think some people might not know. So Prop 50 is a way that California is taking action right now to defend our democracy. It is on the ballots right now. You vote yes, and it is a great way to fight back against Trump's power grab to try to steal a bunch of seats.
Texas.
Yes, in Texas, to take a bunch of seats from the House. And the way I've been talking about it with my friends is everyone needs to care about Prop 50, but the girlies should care so much because there is nothing that pisses or makes me and my friends more mad than men who cheat. And this is literally all just Trump trying to cheat. He is trying to cheat and get away with it. And so we have people in California have the opportunity to try to stop him from cheating right now by voting yes.
The official title for Prop 50 is the Election Rigging Response Act.
Yes.
And so this is in response to the attempt at election rigging by grabbing 5 congressional seats in Texas, which Trump asked the powers that be in Texas to do, and they complied. And so what we're trying to figure out how to do is how to stop the bleeding, right? Like how to have some sort of checks and balances by getting the House back, by maybe the Senate, right? Like how can we check this unchecked power? Because we've seen that what happens when there's unchecked power, it's a disaster for this country, for so many communities, for immigrant communities, for communities of color, for women, for poor people, for working people. Like it is devastated to have this power unchecked. And so this really is a way to help all 50 states be able to fight back against an administration that really wants to be in authoritarian control.
And you mentioned it's devastating for communities. The seats in Texas that Trump is coming after or came after dilutes the power specifically of minorities and communities of color, their voting power. Yeah. And this is something that happens all the time. And I think the Prop 50 conversation is a great way to sort of resurface the gerrymandering conversation, especially during, have you heard about the FAFO concept for everyone? So lots of young people online, when anything tragic has been happening in states that voted for Donald Trump, have been saying F around and find out, FAFO, like they voted for this is what's happening. But the reality is gerrymandering has been used in the South for so long to make it so that no matter how people vote to an extent, it is more and more difficult for them to not have red representation.
And I want to say also that this isn't a situation of like, this isn't about grabbing power, right? It's about stopping Trump from stealing power.
Absolutely.
And it's very different from what happened in Texas because the people of Texas did not vote on those 5 congressional seats. In California, we have an opportunity to have a democratic process where people can actually vote to protect ourselves. So I just want to be clear about that because this isn't like a tit for tat where we're doing exactly what they did. No, we're trying to figure out how to right the wrong of what they did, but to do it democratically.
Yep. And we have to fight back. We have to fight back and level the playing field. And so this is a way to do it. So if you live in California, you have to go vote yes on Prop 50.
Yeah. Please.
It is
and
really.
If you have more questions you want to be, I've been taking questions on my text account where people can text me and ask questions. So if you have questions about Prop 50, please text me. And you can get the text number. It's in the bio on my Instagram. And then also, again, Tony Goldwyn and I made a video about it. So we kind of explain it a little bit more. We compare it to a little kind of what happened on Scandal with Defiance.
Oh, yeah.
And so we sort of put it in that context. So you can go to my Instagram or Tony's and we do it like a really quick kind of explanation, but also feel free to text me your questions.
I love that. I will plug the video that you and Tony made in here so that people can find it and show it because that's such a great resource. And it's so fun and inspiring to see someone like you use your platform all the time to talk about the issues that are happening in real life, both your platform as Kerry, as an actress, as a writer. I know you're working on a project, Reasonable Doubt, right now, which also explores lots of different themes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about that when you asked about, making content that really challenges our notions of who we are and how we treat each other. Reasonable Doubt is a show I'm so proud of. I'm an executive producer on that show. I directed the pilot, so I sort of helped create that world. But it's run by a brilliant showrunner, creator Ramla Muhammad, who's actually one of our most fabulous Scandal writers. She actually wrote the crossover episode on Scandal with Olivia and Annalise Keating with How to Get Away. And so now this is her show. And every season, it's a really powerful lawyer who leads the show. She's inspired by a real life lawyer. Um, but she takes on clients with really complicated issues. We've dealt with domestic violence, financial abuse, we've dealt with drug abuse, with sexual assault. Like, we don't shy away from complexity and difficulty on this show, because, again, we want people to know that they're not alone. We want to take this stuff out of the shadows and have the courage to do like real storytelling about the stuff that people are really struggling with in their lives.
It's so powerful. And so thank you for doing that. I love that crossover episode. So that's so fun.
Yeah. The show's so great. We're in our third season, but you can start at the beginning. It's really great, or drop into this season. Amiazzi Corleone she's the lead on the show. Cornaldi, let me say that again. Amiazzi Cornaldi is the lead on the show, and she is amazing. She plays Jack Stewart, and she is like, with that expression, like Olivia Pope walked so that Jax could run, right? Like, she's the next iteration of fabulous badassery.
I know what I am watching all weekend long. So that is so exciting. I want to end with just some fun questions because I know we're almost out of time, and you have been so kind to dive really deep, but just some fun ones for everyone. Is I am curious your favorite line from Scandal.
Oh gosh, that's really hard. I think my favorite line from Scandal is not actually one that I say. I mean, It's Handled is the one that people say to me all the time, but I really love the scene with my dad, Joe Morton, Papa Pope, when he, talked about, you have to be twice as good to get half as much. That whole monologue, I think, was such an extraordinary moment in culture, because I watched online, we used to live tweet the show, and I watched how so many audiences of color, people of color, or even like immigrant families, white immigrant families who basically came from like more marginalized working class backgrounds, or were marginalized because of race, even if they were socioeconomically privileged. But so many people were like, yes, that is what we say all the time. And then lots of other people were like, is that what people say? Is that really a thing? Like, it was such a really wonderful moment of cultural sharing, of like opening up again the secrets that we keep in our different cultural circles and pockets, and getting a window into each other's reality. Was really, I love that moment. And Joe Morton is just a beast.
I love that. What is a book, a movie, or a show that gives you hope when you need it?
A book, a movie, or a show that gives me hope when I need it. That's really good. I love Glory, the song. I think that's a really powerful one. I love, even though it like sometimes breaks my heart now because of what happened with the election, but I think Beyonce's Freedom.
Oh yeah, the song makes me cry now.
Anthem, yeah, it's such an anthem. And I think the movie Moana.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, my last question for you is, what is one piece of advice you wish younger you had that we could give to all our viewers?
You know what, I'm going to say one other thing.
Yes.
The other thing that always gives me hope when I watch it on multiple levels is Hamilton.
Oh, same. Every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what was your last question?
Advice that you wish your younger self had that we can give the viewers to end off.
Advice that I wish my younger self had. I wish that somebody had told my younger self that she really, really, really didn't have to be anybody other than who she was. That her power is not in becoming somebody else, and her power is in having the courage to be who she really is.
That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
No, thank you for being who you are and for doing this.
I think I needed to hear that today still. It's good to hear it. It's good to be reminded, right?
It is. It's one of those affirmations I think we all need all the time. So
yeah, so important.
Thank you so much for joining me, for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us. It means so much.
Haley, thank you for all that you do to move these conversations forward and to make having these conversations look cool and cute and wonderful. I just think you're doing such a service by having these conversations and by doing the work that you do. So I'm thrilled that you invited me into your world, but just keep doing it, girl.
Thank you. Really means the world to me.
Yeah.
Have a good one.